Hello and welcome back to Autoimmune Adventures, where we navigate the ups and downs of chronic illness together and discover ways to live boldly even when the path isn't always easy. I'm Stacy, and today Becky, Alicia, and I are excited to sit down with someone whose story challenges the way many of us think about aging, health, and what our bodies are capable of. Today's guest truly embodies the idea that it's never too late to take a change and take charge of your health. Michael Dorfman is a certified health and nutrition life coach, author, and longevity advocate. At 83 years old, he's not just talking about vibrant aging, he's living it. Michael began his health journey nearly 5 decades ago when he adopted a vegetarian diet in 1976, later transitioning to a whole food, plant-based lifestyle in 2008. He has studied nutrition extensively, including earning certifications in plant-based nutrition through Cornell University. Michael is the author of The Thriving Vegan and is currently completing his upcoming book, The Longevity Wellness Revolution, which explores how food, mindset, and daily habits can help people age with energy, purpose, and joy. Today, we're talking about nutrition, longevity, resilience, and the powerful ways our daily habits can shape our long-term health. Michael, welcome to Autoimmune Adventures. We're glad you're here.
Thank you, Stacy. Looking forward to this. Great to be here.
So, Michael, your health journey spans nearly 5 decades, beginning when you adopted a vegetarian diet in 1976. So what initially inspired that decision, and how has your understanding of nutrition evolved since then?
Well, in the first place, I'm 84, not 83.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction.
one year older. I changed to a vegetarian diet in 1976. But it wasn't really for health reasons, not specifically health reasons. It was more for, I became interested in Eastern philosophy and religion. And on that side of the world, there were just a lot of vegetarians. So I figured, well, maybe that's going to help me understand a little bit more. So I changed. So I gave up meat completely, and I continued to eat dairy and eggs. But that was a change, and I felt good pretty much every year, except I would get sick every year. Not very sick, flu-like symptoms, sore throat, headaches, fever, congestion. So it would last like 2 weeks every single year, and I didn't know why that was happening. So my brother, who is living he still lives in New York. He's already 90. He had been plant-based for about 10 years at that time. And he mentioned to me, he told me that maybe the possibility I was getting sick every year was because I was eating dairy. I was consuming dairy. So he said, maybe you should give up dairy. And I said, well, no way. I'm not giving up dairy. I just love my pizza and I love my cheese. And so I kept on going for years until finally I was tired of it. And I was like, is there a way out of this, me getting sick every year? So my brother recommended I get the book, The China Study by T. Colin Campbell. And I did. And actually, I received my my certification in plant-based nutrition through his institute. So T. Colin Campbell did the China Study, which was a 20-year study in China that was based on the findings of cancer, what was happening with cancer in China. And he wanted it was the president at that time, I think it was Zhou Enlai, who eventually died from cancer, who contracted him, and he worked with the team in China. And they found out that certain things were, people in rural areas weren't getting sick, weren't getting cancer as frequently as people living in the cities. So anyway, I read the book, and I changed. That was 17 years ago. I became plant-based at that time, and never looked back. So that was a big change, that was my big change from vegetarian to plant-based.
Powerful. It's a very good book. I will admit I have not been fully motivated to make the shift myself yet, but it was a very well-written book, and it had some really great science behind it.
I was just curious how you would describe the difference between vegetarian versus plant-based.
Well, vegetarian is basically you're giving up meat, and you can eat dairy and cheese and eggs. So I think that's considered what the vegetarian diet. So you're giving up meat, and then there's the vegan diet, which is giving up meat and dairy, but not specifically. It can be, but not specifically because you're into your health, that you want to change your health. Most vegans are vegan because of ethical reasons, with the animal protection and planet, saving the planet. So, but when you get into plant-based, which I liked, even though my first book was called The Thriving Vegan, I really use the word plant-based. I use more than plant-based. I use plant-powered. So it's whole food, plant-based, and you're focusing on what you're eating. Vegan basically tell you what not to eat, so you can pretty much eat anything. But with plant-based nutrition, it's more focused on your health.
Okay, that's fascinating. So really, there's a distinction between vegetarian, vegan, and plant-based.
Yes, yeah, sure.
I guess I'd never thought of that way. I mean, I knew the difference between vegetarian and vegan, but I like this plant power approach. I like thinking about it that way. Food is medicine. I love it.
So Michael, you actually talk a lot about the body's innate ability to heal. For listeners who might be living with chronic illness or autoimmune disease, can you help them understand what that would mean in practical terms?
There are our two greatest gifts. The greatest gift that any human being can receive is the gift of life. So without the gift of life, there's nothing. There's nothing there. So because we have the gift of life, we can enjoy so many other gifts. We have the gift of thinking and feeling and experiencing emotions, and the sight and hearing. All these gifts come, but only because we're alive. And then we have the gift of life. But a lot of people don't recognize or don't consider that with this other gift, which is the gift of our body. And why is it a gift? Well, first of all, we didn't ask for it. We came along, and we have our body, and the body is where our life lives. Without the body, the same thing happens. We have no life, because that's what's really important. So the body is, for me, because I treasure and I understand the preciousness of life, and I really have always believed this, that life is something that we get once in a lifetime. We get our life, and then where it goes, where it came from, nobody really knows. So the preciousness of life has always been with me, and I always try to remember that on a daily basis. But I also understand now that if I really want to live a long life, and I really want to live a healthy life, that I want to take care of my body, because that's the way it works. So the body has become my focus, and I think that's what the important thing of the innate self-healing powers is, that we have always had this. The body has always been taking care of us ever since we were born. And we have much of it, we don't even have anything to do with it. We get a cut and the body heals it. We get a burn and the body heals it. And then we get, sick, we get symptoms, we get fever, and the body heals it. We get doctors come in and they help, they sew up the cut, or the broken bone, they put the cast on. So that's what they do, but it's the body that heals it. And that's the way it is. It's always been that way, that the body, that's what it does. So for me, I've learned over the years that what is our role? Our role is to help the body do its job. That sounds logical to me, that if we as long as we help the body do its job, then the body will have a great environment and it will keep taking care of us. So that's been my focus is finding out how I can help the body. And most of the time, it's just not making my body work harder by giving you extra work to do, like, if I'm not eating well, if I'm eating highly processed foods or things that are, fast foods, things that I shouldn't be, well, then I know that that's not what the body really likes. The body wants, foods that are not going to, I guess, take away the energy from the body. It wants to heal us and keep us healthy. But if it has to detour this energy, I got to take care of this guy because he's not, doing his job and helping me do my work. So that's part of it. And, different, things that we do, whether it's nutrition or it's our lifestyle practices or, different things like, taking too many medicines, becoming actually, addicted to medicines. Many people are. They take medicines all their life. And this takes us away from the body's natural healing powers because it's natural. So I think right now, because we're living in a time when there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of unhealthy things happening, I think it's incumbent upon us to find out what it is that our body really thrives on. And that's what I try to do. And so
I would agree with you. I think that that's the key, is finding that, because one of the things that I noticed as I was reading through your stuff is that you really emphasize the importance of the microbiome in our work and how important the gut health is, and that it's critical to wellness. And when we are over medicating, when we are doing all these things we were just talking about, that affects the gut biome. So what are some simple ways that you would suggest that people can begin supporting their biome through their daily intake of food? Because I think people just don't think about it. They don't think about the fact that the gut is our second brain. It's how our body operates effectively, and it's how we get our fuel, because our food is fuel, right? But as Alicia mentioned, it should also be medicine. So how can we help our biome be better?
Well, first of all, I think the most important point is that the microbiome is there are 36, supposedly between 36 and 40 trillion microbes in our body. 70% of it lives in our gut, in the colon area. So why is that important? Well, first of all, we are swimming in that. Our bodies are actually swimming in a universe of microbes, and the microbes are in our gut, they're in our brain, they're all throughout our body, and even on our skin. So, and these microbes are like, they're nice. They're in most cases they're nice, and they just live their regular lives, and they eat like we do. They need certain foods like we do. They have offspring like we do, and they go through their life, and they want to enjoy their life because they want to live. Microbes want to live just like we want to live, like our body wants to live. So in the microbes, fortunately for us, they are part of the whole health process. So when we feed the microbes what they want, which happens to be fiber, that's the main, that's the food that they love. Fiber, which is only from plant-based foods, that's where fiber comes from. So when we eat fiber, the plants ferment the fiber. It goes down through the colon. The fiber doesn't get digested. It goes right through the body and into the colon, and there it is. The fiber is waiting for it. That's their food. And what they do is they ferment it and they digest it, and they transform that into short-chain fatty acids. Butyrate is one of them. Acetate is another one. And these short chain fatty acids are the source of our health, for helping our immune system, protecting us, helping us avoid chronic inflammation, which is maybe the number one problem for human beings. So many things cause chronic inflammation. So one of the things that happens when the microbiome is in dysbiosis is that it's not getting what it needs. And all of a sudden, you start getting, because there's the separation of the wall of the intestines is protected. It's a wall. But when we start eating things that are going into our gut, that are healthy things, whether it's foods that we shouldn't be eating, whether it's glyphosate, the pesticides from the food we eat, whether it's too many antibiotics, things like that, when they start making destroying the wall of the gut.
I guess the question that I was thinking of as you were telling it, because that's all true, like we know how important the gut health is. Could you maybe share with our listeners some easy meal ideas, I guess? Because taking this from a completely practical perspective, if somebody's listening to this and they don't know where to start with a plant-based diet, like, because we all know just how we have so much processed food today, like tons of it. What are some good practical first steps for people that want to look at a plant-based diet?
Well, I think the first thing is that understand that the importance of it. Secondly, there are so many things that we eat that are actually plant-based and we probably love. So there are certain things that, for example, what I have for breakfast, I'll often have oatmeal, or I'll have some granola, things that I eat in the morning, that I'll have also with fruits. I'll eat as much of a variety of fruits as possible. So I'll combine it, whether I'll eat bananas and papaya and melon and apples and blueberries. And there are so many wonderful fruits you can combine with your oatmeal or any other grain that you like for breakfast. So oatmeal is my favorite breakfast because it's very powerful and it's very soft. It's a great energy, a lot of protein, great way to begin the day. So I start out with that, but I also have a piece of toast, whole wheat, or you can have any kind of grain toast. Maybe if you're gluten-free, you don't want to have that. So I do that, and then I'll have, I'll start out with a cup of organic coffee, and so that'll be basically my breakfast. And you can start out, for people who are not plant-based, smoothies, a great way to start. You can combine, there's so many recipes for smoothies, whether it's plant-based food smoothies, combining plants with vegetables. So people who maybe have a hard time maybe eating the plants to start, smoothies is great because you're getting your energy, and there's a lot of fiber there in the smoothies. So I think that's a great way to start. But I think it's also, lunchtime. I mean, so many things that are in the plant community. We have the beans, and we have the grains, and we have the vegetables, and we have the nuts and the seeds and the fruits. They even have, fermented things if people are into that, for taking that in the mornings. So, there's no short list of possible foods you can eat on a plant-based diet. And it's beautiful because you're getting it. Plant-based foods are very highly nutritious and low fat. So especially if people want to, lose weight, it's a great way to do it. I eat so much. You can eat so much on a plant-based diet that because it's so nutrition dense, that and for people especially who like to eat, it's really wonderful. So you can get that. And whereas, if you eat a lot of meat and dairy, it's calorie dense. There's a lot of fat in that. So there's a great way to start for people to understand that. And it's so easy. It's easy. You have easy to have a daily a bowel movement. It's like it just it's great for the body, and that's what the body loves. So that's what I do. But avoiding, I try to stay away. I don't take medicines except if it's absolutely necessary. If I have to take an antibiotic for some reason. But the problem is that getting back to this healing power of the body, when you start depending on drugs, because that's what the doctors offer us, the drugs for a pill for an ill, and they won't tell you about nutrition or unless they're, unless they've done their research on it, or lifestyle changes. So it's getting back to if you take too many drugs and too many, because you start getting more and more sick, and then you need to take more drugs, and then what happens is the body is not, you're not depending on the body's self-healing powers, and the body is just going to lose it. Say, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it, because the body, that's its job, to heal us. So I think that that's a way to start. And for lunch, I usually always have a salad with fresh vegetables, even maybe adding some grain or nuts. And so I'll add that. And then I'll have my wife. She's a great cook on plant-based foods. So she makes her food, and we have beans and, just beans and rice. I mean, even pasta, and there's so many things. They're comfort foods. Plant-based foods are comfort foods. And I think that people are just turned away from plant-based foods because of, this thing they have in their head, maybe, there's not enough protein there, or, for whatever reason that they believe it's not complete enough. But here I am, I'm 84 years old. I play pickleball 4 times a week. I'm just, I write, I do so many different things, and so I have that energy, and that's maybe, the important thing. And there's so many athletes, elite athletes are plant-based. You can just research it, but there's so many, and there's documentaries on Netflix about plant-based foods. So I think that your first and most important thing is to want to do it, but to really want to do it, because it takes an effort, but the important thing that happens is that when you do start making a change, little changes, maybe just add some other one more meal a week, a plant-based meal, and then maybe the following week it's same, and then you can use different ways of flavoring. You can flavor plant-based foods, and the most important thing that happens is that you may start notice changing, because if you're not rewarded, after a few weeks maybe, then it's like, well, I don't know about that. But once you start getting, maybe you lose some pounds, maybe you start feeling more energy.
As you were talking about that, it was reminding me of the blue zones. You have done some studies of the longevity patterns of people that live in the blue zones. And I have the book on my shelf, and I haven't read it yet. And I'm pretty sure there's also a documentary out of it as well. So what lessons from those communities do you think are most relevant for people that want to live longer, healthier lives?
Yeah, the blue zones had a great influence on me. And especially as I got older, because when I read the book, by Dan Buettner, who was working with National Geographic, and then he sent him around, and he found these 5 places in the world where people live the longest and healthiest, 10 to 15 years longer than we live in the West. So I got interested in that, and I was getting older. Is like, wait, what's here? Maybe there's something here. And the great thing about the blue zones, which you actually also see in the documentary, which is on Netflix, it's called Live to 100: Secrets of the Blue Zones, is that it wasn't only to discover these places because they were living longer, but also the idea was finding what similarities are there among these different blue zone communities, because they were separated by oceans and land masses, and maybe they never even had a contact with each other. So they did, and that was the important thing for me, to find out, okay, what were the similarities? And one of the similarities, maybe the most important, was plant-based. So, and plant powered, I'm going to use, because my first book I wrote, The Thriving Vegan, it was focusing only on nutrition, basically. But then when I changed through the study of the blue zones, and I started finding out, wait a second, most of these blue zones aren't 100% plant-based. Some of the places, they eat meat, they eat dairy. The ones in Loma Linda, pescatarians live very well. So I'm still doing plant-based, and that's what I do. But it's like, this is a great opening because it's more than that. It's it's fundamentally plant-based, but it's more than that, especially if you want to live longer, past 80. And that was because I was already 80, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. So one of the things is that the plant-based, then you have natural movement, not necessarily going to the gym, but not sitting around like I'm doing right now on the, on the podcast, and just even though I'm sitting, because a lot of people, you're working at the laptop with the laptop and or the cell phone, but it's important to get up. It's important to get up every 20 minutes, move around. If you can, the morning is a great time to walk or to do anything that, energetic, because, our bodies are getting ready to face the day. The cortisol or the what do you call it? The sympathetic nervous system is ready to go. So it's good to do that. So, they do natural exercise, because they live also in rural areas for the most part. So they're walking a lot. They walk uphill, downhill, wherever they are, whether it's in, Okinawa, whether it's in Sardinia, in the Icaria in Greece. So they're living a simpler life. So, but they have that. And then they have, stress reduction, which is could be through meditation, could be through Tai Chi, through yoga, Qigong Kong, but they make that a part of their day. And the other thing that's very important is community. That's a real important one, where, human beings we're social creatures. We do well. We've always done well. I mean, if you go back to the hunter-gatherers, they lived in tribes, and they depended upon each other. I mean, for their lives. So that's what we always got together in tribes. And now we are with community here. We can be part of a community, whether it's community based on, maybe faith-based or interests or, beliefs. But it's important to have a caring community where people really care for each other, and getting together with other people. Problem today is that that's happening less with the younger generations now, even older generations, on their cell phones, and believing that talking to somebody on the phone is the same thing as talking to the person in person. It's like we're losing it, and that's really important. And that's why maybe with people, on their phone so much, talking to other people on the phone, and yet loneliness is almost a disease here in the West, that people are so lonely, and they get depressed and take they take medicines for antidepressants. So this is especially true. So so we have to do something extra, I think, than maybe people in the blue zones, because the way we live now is not we don't live in the communities like they do, and so I think that's why it's extra important for us to make more effort, to adapt some of these things that the blue zones have. And another thing that's very important, which for me was very important, is purpose in life. Having meaning. Why am I up this morning? And as you get older, and this goes back to the longevity thing of the fifth stage of life, which is 80 to 100, which that's what I'm trying to guide people through, is that you want to there's not much information on how to thrive after 80. Usually it's in the 70s. You may have a chronic disease. I think most people have at least one chronic disease, and then you're told that, well, the life expectancy is about 75, 78. But nothing is really after 80. And saying after 80, people think, well, I could survive after 80. But what about thriving after 80? Really enjoying your life? That's something else. So that's what's important. So.
I love that, because when you hit 80, you're smarter than you've ever been. Why would you want to stop living at that point?
Yeah, you're so right. And because for me, it's like you have the wisdom of a lifetime.
Yeah.
The wisdom and experience of a lifetime. And that's why on, the other side of the world, there are places that, they're revered. The people, the great grand people, they're guided. They guide, they're looked up to for their information. But here it's like, that doesn't what people, you go into a home or you're living alone, and that's unfortunate. And that's what we're up against here, but you can really enjoy those years, 80 and above, just as we enjoy 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Mm-hmm. It's really a time of life that could be really, vibrant.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, you discussed the subject of what could be called good stress or eustress, and how certain kinds of stress can actually support resilience and longevity. Do you want to give some examples of that and let our audience know kind of how that works?
Yeah, sure. Well, we always hear about avoid stress. But what we really want to avoid is chronic stress. And the problem is with today's world, there's so many situations that cause stress, whether it's economic, relationships, what's happening around the world. And I think the stress really took off during the pandemic, when all of a sudden families were separated and friends. I mean, I was experiencing it here, and I know a lot of people were experiencing it. That we took sides. Well, you're vaccinated, you're not vaccinated. You believe this, you don't. Mass. That was a time, whatever you believe, it was a time when there was a lot of stress. And there we were living in our homes, in lockdown. So we got into stress, and the thing is that stress continues to today, where people are getting stressed out because of situations like I mentioned, whether it's for money, for losing your job, et cetera, and we get used to living in stress. And and for me, it doesn't really even matter. You could do so many good things for your body, but if you're living in stress, it's really tough, because you're gonna get sick. And so that's why it's important. And so I go back to this time of the hunter-gatherers. And the hunter-gatherers went through a lot of stress. They had to run away from their animals, and they had to, they didn't live in air-conditioned or heated rooms. They were living in the caves. And then winter came, and they had to move to another area, and lack of food. So they were in this constant stress, but they had to deal with it. And so the ones that were able to deal with the stress, like, for example, the ones that could run faster away from the animals than others, they survived. And the ones who were able to survive through the lack of food, or the lack of, or they were, freezing to death or whatever because of the change of the climate. So we inherited that. That's part of our resilience as we are today. And the problem is that we've become, we're so stuck in our comfort zone. We're so stuck in, living as couch potatoes and just sitting around and not doing enough. When I was younger, we used to go out and play in the streets, and it was like everything happened in the streets. We didn't have all these distractions of the, internet, the computer, and the phones. So that's the way we live. And now it's, like I mentioned, that people don't even go to somebody else's house. They're on the phone all the time. And we're just not experiencing, we don't want to experience any kind of stress. So it ends up that not having stress in our lives, short-term stress, which is called eustress, is just as bad as having a lot of stress, because stress makes us resilient, allows us to adapt to situations, and helps us be ready when we really have stressful things happening in our life. So what I do is that, beside the plant-based foods, I do some lifestyle habits I have, practices, which I've recently learned about. And most of it's come from my son, who's a somatic healer. And I've learned, I'm starting to read. This is, to me, it's a new age of holistic medicine, when all of a sudden lifestyle is becoming more and more popular. Breath, I do breath work and breath hold. Breath is incredible. It's amazing what you can do with breath holds. You can really increase the amount of energy in your body. So these things all together, and breath work, meditation is breath work, but the breath work, and you could slow down your heartbeat. It's like, if you really, because what happens with stress, and I'm learning this now, when you get stressed, your heart beats faster, because of that's the stress hormone, that's the reaction. So your heart beats faster, and it's like because you're thinking of something that's really bothering you, or you get angry at somebody, whatever. So here I am. So so instead of focusing on my thoughts or my what I'm thinking about everything, I just focus on my breath through breath work, and I slow down my breath. And that all of a sudden changes me back into the parasympathetic mode, which is feeling peace and just balance within me. So this is what I'm getting involved now, and I'm loving it. In my 80s, I'm sort of accepting challenges to my body and my mind as much as possible, because I feel, instead of people slowing down as we get older, and that's what they tell us, oh, you're working too hard, you're 80 years old, you should not. No. You got to do exactly the opposite. You got to continue being energized. You have active as much as possible, and challenging. The same thing for the mental health. Play board games, do things. Learn a new language, play an instrument. Whatever it is. This keeps you away from having, mental problems, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. So, I have no idea how long I'm going to live, but I'm at the end, sort of in the twilight, but I don't even think of the years or anything. I'm sort of just identified with what I'm doing now, and just trying to be as happy and live as well as possible. Yeah.
I love that so much. Just to wrap up today, we want to talk about your book, because that's exciting. What a great way to spend your twilight years, writing a book called The Longevity Wellness Revolution. So obviously it focuses on aging with energy and purpose and joy, like you've talked about. So what is the core message you hope the readers will take away from this new book?
The core message is, I think, what we're, talking about is that life doesn't end as you get older. Life begins at 80. That's what I'm trying to say, and that's what I talk about in the book, and that's what I write about, is how we can do that. And this is from my experience. It goes through my whole journey from the very beginning, when I started getting interested in health. And I've been through a lot of things. I had different illnesses. I don't have a chronic disease, and I don't, have an autoimmune condition. But I'm 84. I have other things that I really have to work out. So that's what it's about. And it's interesting, because I've been starting to think about my next book, which I've already thought of the title, The Longevity Wellness Experience. So I don't know. So it's coming out at the end of this month. It's just about completely, it's going to be on Amazon. Longevity Wellness, Revolution. And it's going to be on Amazon. And I also, I have a Substack. I write articles every week. And if people want to subscribe, you just go to my website. I think you have my connection to my website. The website, I also offer now, which I don't know if I mentioned before when we had spoken before, about my guidebook, Longevity Wellness Guidebook. That's available free. So it gives you an introduction to my book. And so that's basically it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We will make sure to put links to your guidebook, to your book that you just mentioned, and to your website so people can get subscribed to your Substack. It has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and you can see how much life you have in you. And I love to see that. I can see it in your face. I can hear it in your voice. I can sense the energy through the computer. So that's how I want to be when I'm 84. I love it. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience, your wisdom, and your perspective on what it means to age well and to really live well as we do that. Your story is a powerful reminder that the choices that we make every day have an impact. They matter. And it's never too late to start making changes that are going to support our health and our future. So to our fellow adventurers listening today, thank you for being part of this journey with us. If today's conversation resonated with you, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and share this episode with somebody who might need a little encouragement on their health journey. Don't forget to watch for our weekly newsletter, The Scenic Route, which is launching in April. It will be filled with encouragement and practical tools and resources to help you keep moving forward no matter where your path leads. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of joy. Disease does not define your life. You do.